Trailer Rewind, a monthly conversation about movies you may have missed in theaters that are now available to watch at home on streaming services. Every month we dig into the archives and watch a film that was discussed as a trailer pick. We watch it and have a very spoilery conversation about it. JJ, today we're breaking into new ground.
Okay.
This is the first film that we're talking about that was a trailer pick that was picked on a Saturday matinee episode.
Ah, okay. That's great.
They used to do the trailer picks as just part of their, main show discussion.
Sure.
And then last year, Pete and Andy made a format change to the main show, and they removed that from the main show and gave it a home on the Saturday matinee. So this is the first one that was a trailer pick discussed on a Saturday matinee. And I want to let our listeners know that for as little as $1 a month, you can support us on Patreon as a patron. And that will give you access to those very special Saturday matinee episodes where we talk about trailer picks. We also talk about our lists, and can also be part of our Discord group where there's always an engaging conversation about films going on. So this one, our first Saturday matinee trailer pick, is from Pete.
You might want to call that section Trailer Pre-Wine.
Trailer Oh
no, I'm joking, but yeah, no, that'd be something. That's kind of the neat thing about going to Saturday matinee is it's a little bit more unformatted, a little bit more flexible. They do talk about trailers.
Yeah,
so it's kind of fun to.
It's recorded early in the morning. We're not always awake, so you never know what you're going to get with us on a Saturday matinee. Yeah, this one was Pete's pick from September 2017. We're talking about Hostiles, or as Pete struggled in his description, he didn't know if it was Hostels or Hostiles.
Say it with a little bit of a New Mexico Southern accent. Hostiles.
Yes, Hostiles. And so today we're recording this on November 12th, and Hostiles is available on Netflix.
And you can also rent it on Amazon Prime, but why would you do that when you can stream it for free on Netflix? I almost made that mistake, but we found it on Netflix. Watched it that way. So
we're always trying to find how can you get to it without paying additional money out of pocket. So if you've got a subscription to Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Hulu, that's usually where we're going to find our trailer picks that we're talking about. Yep. So a little history about Hostiles. It had its premiere at the 2017 Telluride Film Festival on September 2nd. So it had just, played at that festival when Pete was talking about the trailer on Saturday matinee. And it had a limited release, sort of, I guess, going for that Oscar target with a December 22nd release in 3 theaters.
Okay.
And it had a really strong turnout, about $7,600 per screen.
Wow.
And that slowly added more screens over the next few weeks. And then by January 26th, they went wide. So they jumped up to 2,816 screens. Unfortunately, audiences weren't really turning out for this movie at that time, and the revenue just steadily declined every week until it finally closed May 10th, 2018.
Yeah. And there was nothing in the Oscars about this movie.
No. This one got overlooked, forgotten. It was available on digital streaming services around April 10th and came out on DVD and Blu-ray disc April 24th. And it was just this August 15th, that it first became available for streaming on Netflix.
How long is a run on Netflix? That's actually that sounds long to me, but you might know how long something stays on Netflix a little bit better than I do.
I think it depends on the studio and the terms of whatever agreement of how it gets bundled in. I've seen things that, for example, Raw, that Andy and I just talked about last month. I watched that last year, so it's been there for over a year.
Yeah.
I think some of these smaller films end up there a little bit longer. Some of the more mainstream recognizable titles will come and go, and it can be hard to sometimes track them down. But I would expect this one, hopefully through the holidays at least,
that makes sense,
to be there. This one, but looking at this cast, this is a film that you would think would find an audience, and perhaps it was released at the wrong time. They tried to place it for some Oscar nominations, and it hit theaters, but just didn't find the audience. And maybe the audience for this isn't, one that's going to be going out to theaters over the holidays or in January. I'm not sure. So this one it's one of those, hopeful, long shots that just, didn't make it. And again, I think a perfect find for Trailer Rewind. a film that maybe isn't the 5-star classic, but I think definitely, worth people discovering, and something that has some merit to it, I think, as we'll get into what this film is trying to say, or what, I think Scott Cooper is trying to accomplish with this film, and the cast that he pulled together for this. So for me, this is sort of like, again, the sweet spot of Trailer Rewind. This is why I love having these conversations about these movies that I think people will find interesting to talk about.
So then let's start with that, because I'm really interested about your opinions about this. So who are you going to after viewing this, and I don't know if this was your first time or multiple times, who are you going to recommend go out and see or go stream Hostiles?
This is my first time watching this, and
mine too.
This is, I guess, for me, I think any guy that likes a good Western, that likes, for lack of a better cliche, sort of a man's film.
Okay.
For me, that's what you've got, Christian Bale as just this, grizzled veteran of, the West. So we're set in like the 1890s here. He's seen a lot. There's been a lot of, back and forth with the tribes, and he's just lost a lot of friends.
Well, so they tell you over and over and over again about how much has happened to him.
Yes.
Make sure you know. They're experts in seeing bad stuff happen.
So I think that's, for me, that audience of a guy's film. Who's going to see this? Somebody that's going to say, "Oh, Christian Bale, he's a tough guy. He's been through he's been in the army. He's seen a lot, and he's got a grudge. And we're going to go on a road trip with him, and we're going to see him change over the course of this journey." And for me, that's the audience. This is not a family picture, although our opening scene is with a family.
It was a family picture until minute 6.
Yes. Yes. As the opening scene is, for me, really, my wife was sort of watching across the room.
Oh, you watched with your wife. Okay.
Well, she wasn't interested, but still she'll be working on something and just sort of glance over. And sometimes she'll get pulled in, and other times, as in this case, she'll just say, did they shot the baby?
Yeah, right.
And I said, yes, they did. She said, okay.
Yeah,
that was about it.
Her. She said, okay. You know what I said? I said, oh, no, no, this isn't okay. And I didn't even have to wait for the baby to be shot to say that.
It's the two little girls getting shot. It was, okay, Dad gets shot. Well, so we should explain the setup. The opening scene is a home, a family out on their little ranch, and, Mom is homeschooling the kids. She's got 2 girls.
It's adorable. Use an adverb in a sentence, darling.
That's right. And Dad sees some men on horses coming, and clearly they've had a plan. He said, "Oh, these, gotta get out the back. Dad's gonna go out front because these guys. They're coming to take our horses." Is what they tell the girls, and Dad goes out to confront them, and he's quickly done away with. And I thought, oh, it's okay. The girls and the mom and the baby, they'll make it safely over the ridge into the woods and be fine. But the 2 girls get shot down, and they're like maybe 8, 9, 10 years old.
Yep,
at most. And then an infant the mom's carrying gets shot. So you've got Rosamund Pike is our first survivor. That's it. That's our character we're introduced. So we get her sense of her relationship to the Native American tribes that are in that area. There's a very antagonistic relationship. She's a survivor of a very traumatic event. And then we're followed up with another really unsettling event where we see Christian Bale's Blocker, who, to me, it's the exact mirror image. You've got a Native American family who they're trying to capture Dad with lassos, and meanwhile the wife and child are just wailing and screaming. And so to me, you've got the exact opposite of this, of the white man.
And I don't mean to laugh. It's inappropriate for me to laugh. But the word that you said that made me laugh is, and then we come upon another unsettling scene. And the reason why I laugh at that is because you could say that about this movie over and over and over again throughout the entire 2 hour and 20 minutes of it. And then we come upon another unsettling scene. It could actually probably be the title of this film if we wanted it to be. I like that they flipped the idea of the hostiles, right, in that first scene to the second, to show us both sides of the story. However, the reason why I want to stop you before we go deeper into that is because we talked about, whether we're going to see this again. I'm never going to see this movie again, and I'm not going to recommend it to anyone because it is, and then we come upon another unsettling scene. It is as if they wanted to take The Revenant, which was an Oscar-nominated film, which I haven't seen because I know of how extreme it is, and try to put a little Dances with Wolves in it, right? That's how I felt about this movie. And so when we think about who we're going to recommend it to, I think when you say a man's man or that kind of thing, I get where that's going, because those folks out there who believe in, the cowboy code and the realism of the Old West, the kind of like... Yes. The people who would be the park goers in Westworld, these are the people who are going to enjoy this film. But it is so intensely tragic around every corner, and it left very little redeeming qualities for me in the way of the story. I never felt connected to any of the characters. They were all just terrible for me most of the time. I do see that it went to an arc where they were trying to tell the story of how these people changed over time. However, it was so overlong and so drawn out in inexplicable ways from a filmmaking perspective that I just never bought in. And what stayed with me, and this could have happened to me very early. I mean, you shoot the girls, you're trying to tell me something, right? You're trying to tell me to buckle up because this is going to be a terrible, terrible ride. But it seemed weak from a storytelling perspective. There are ways to do that differently. And maybe they didn't want to. Maybe that's the point. Maybe this isn't a movie made for me because they want to show the stark realism of the Old West, I guess. But, I feel like there's an artful way to do it, and they really didn't do many artful things in their telling of tragedy in this story.
I agree with you. I enjoyed the movie more than you did, I believe, but I will agree that it could be more artfully done. This film reminds me of Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven, another movie where you've got a lot of just
movie.
And in terms of, you have a lot of unlikable characters. You don't have your typical heroes. Okay, in terms of who were given in this story, I guess the only sympathetic character is, Rosamund Pike as the poor victim at the beginning. So you can identify with her, but you don't have any sort of idealistic heroes that you're going on this journey with.
Right.
Christian Bale's blocker is, when we first meet him, he's capturing these Apaches that have escaped from the fort. He brings them back, and then he's given this mission, and he makes it really clear that he wants nothing to do with this. He hates the natives.
So much so that he considers suicide instead of doing it.
Captain, you do know Chief Yellowhawk?
I know him.
The chief and his family have been prisoners for nearly 7 years. I'd say that's punishment enough, wouldn't you?
There ain't enough punishment for his kind.
Is that right?
Damn right it's right. Let me ask you, Colonel. You remember Billy Dixon? Probably not. Billy was a very good friend of mine. I knew him very well, as I do all the men here. And I watched Yellowhawk take a knife and cut Billy from stem to stern. And then he turned to my good friend. Tell him.
Yes, well, Captain, you're no angel your own self. You know he's eat up with the cancer. Well, the chief has asked for his release, wants to go home to Montana, someplace called Valley of the Bears. You know it?
I do. Sacred giant territory.
After due deliberation and communication with Washington, I've decided to honor that request, allow him and his people to go. This release, it has become something of a, what you might call a cause célèbre back east. Department of the Army wants to be certain that the chief gets here safely without incident.
Why are you telling me this?
You speak as good a native dialect as anyone. Know the trails between here and Montana as well as anyone, do you not?
I've been over them some.
I'm assigning a detail to accompany the chief and his people, and quite frankly, you're the only one I can count on to get the job done right. So, you will lead the party to Montana, see the chief back to his homeland, arrange the others back on the reservation, and from there, you will cut off east to Fort Mason for your mustering out.
With respect, sir, I'm not leading that cutthroat and his brood of bastards and bitches anywhere.
I'm afraid it's an order.
I'm afraid I ain't a bandit, sir.
You're retiring, are you not? I'm sure you don't want to tarnish your record at this late date with a court-martial.
Tell you the truth, I don't give a damn.
Well, you do give a damn about your pension, don't you? Let me tell you something, Captain. Aside from losing one's mind, there is very little to do for an old captain besides sit and whittle and whistle and wait for the postman to bring him his pension check. It would just be a damn shame for a man such as yourself who's put in the time to come up short in the end.
You have any idea who that son of a bitch is and what he's done?
I know he was considered a very tough adversary in his day, and now he is a dying old man.
No, he's a butcher.
Then the two of you ought to get along just fine.
Shut the hell up, you fucking pasty face. You have never seen a lick of war. You have no idea.
No.
No idea what it does to a man. I've killed savages. I've killed plenty of them. Because that's my fucking job.
And from what I hear, Captain, there was never a man happier in his work.
Look. I saw what happened to the 4th when Yellow Hawk and his dog soldiers got done with them. And there wasn't a... Don't you dare laugh. There wasn't enough left of those poor men to fill a slop pail. Understand, when we lay our heads down out here, we're all prisoners. I hate them. I got a war bag of reasons to hate them. Skinny Fiegler, Edwin Tate.
Captain, I just don't give a damn how you personally feel about Yellow Hawk. I don't. What I care about is this, a direct order signed by President Harrison. So you've got just over 24 hours to pick and provision your detail. Should you decide to disobey this order, you'll consider yourself confined to barracks pending a court-martial. Stop! This will be done. And it will be done by you. Now you're dismissed.
Everything is so heavy and so slammed into us with these sort of sledgehammers that it's kind of difficult to really see what's going on because they spend so long in each scene telling us about it. And then, I mean, there's a lot of suicide in this movie too. There's a lot of people who can't reconcile their demons in this movie. It's just really heavy. I think if anything, it should carry just a lot of trigger warnings.
Yes, because we've got, there are a lot of let's sit down and talk things through. And in some ways it's exposition, some ways it's character background. We've got a long discussion between Christian Bale and Roy Cochran. So that's Captain Blocker and Master Sergeant Thomas Metz.
Yay!
Very own
Metz.
long lost ancestor of our very own Tommy Metz. But so it's a scene of those two sort of talking about where they are in their life. And Metz is He's got the melancholia. He's done. He's, right now we would, in this day and age, we would, diagnose him most likely PTSD,
Right.
of just all the things that he's seen and done. And we find out later on, the first time he killed a man, he was, what did he say, 14 years old.
Yeah.
It's the brutality. And then, Blocker he's lost so many friends, and that comes up time and time again. These are two guys that they're burnt out. They're done. And it is a lengthy conversation they have. And then we get Blocker being summoned in to be given his orders. And there's a lot of talking there as well. It's a very long scene where he is making clear his point of why he's going to refuse to do this. And we get some back and forth between him and the colonel and a man from the magazine that gives us a lot of the setup of the different perspectives on what the treatment of the Native Americans and how different parties feel about that. It's a lot of setup to give us the sense that we know who Blocker is. He's a grizzled veteran who has no reason to want to have anything to do with Chief Yellowhawk, because Yellowhawk is, specifically responsible for the death of many of Blocker's friends. So we're getting a lot of exposition and setup. For me, I enjoyed it. This is one where it's a Western. I enjoyed these characters, these actors, Stephen Lang as, Colonel Biggs. To me, it worked. It's not one that I'm going to come back and watch over and over again. But for me, I enjoyed seeing all the pieces set up. It gave me a sense of where this film was going to go. If we're setting up Blocker to be this type of person and we're going to go on a journey, I know I've got a road trip, and what happens on a journey is we become somebody else at the end of the journey. And my interest was in seeing where we go with Christian Bale. What happens to Blocker by the end of this? Has he changed? How has he changed? And why has he changed? And so for me,
is it based on a true story?
No, I do not believe it's based on a true story. I believe it's based on
Scott
a
Cooper's
book
mind.
No. Scott Cooper was working from a IMDb list, other writer as Donald Lee Stewart, based on the manuscript by. So that may be an unpublished book or a book. And Donald Stewart is a familiar name. You may know some of the other things he's written, such as Missing, Hunt for Red October.
Oh, wow.
Clear and Present Danger. So
Those are interesting.
I don't know how much Cooper modified and changed and updated.
So the reason
Stewart's
I ask is
manuscript.
because have you seen the updated 3:10 to Yuma with Christian Bale and Ben Foster
Yes.
and Russell Crowe? So that's a fictional
Yes.
story too, and it's a Western, and yet
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's not terribly predictable. There's a lot that changes in it. You see the character arc that they go through, and it's a very strong film. Again, this is a film that was nominated for a lot of awards during season. I think the reason this film fell off is that the story is actually pretty thin. Everything that we're talking about this arc that they're going through is somewhat predictable. Yeah, you can kind of expect that there's going to be this kind of reconciliation over the course of the story. And there doesn't seem to be actual reasons why people ever do the things that they do in this. And that could be explained away by the difficult life that they're having to lead, the terror of being faced with death around every corner from one side, from, savage people who even the Yellowhawk describes as wrong in the mind, rattlesnakes that are wrong in the mind,
Yes.
And then on the other side, from just terribly corrupt landowners or terribly corrupt fur traders. I mean, it's a series of malevolent crises that end up just ruining all these characters. And that's kind of how it's set up the whole way. And we do get some reconciliation over time, but there doesn't seem to be purposeful reconciliation. It doesn't seem like the crises are what are changing the characters. It seems as though the characters are giving up the ghost on what they've had just because they're faced with so much tragedy. And I guess I think there is value to that story. I don't find it valuable. And I don't think it was well executed either, because I want to fire the editor on this movie. There was so much time. I mean, when a movie is really good and they're doing this, we say it has a lot of space, right? They're giving you room to breathe or room to feel, but there's just so much. There's not a lot of feeling in this movie other than disgust or terror or, just there's just so much negativity over the course of the 2 hours and 20 minutes that I didn't find a place for me to step up and say, yes, this is a good movie.
I will meet you halfway on that.
Okay.
I will agree there is not a lot of emotion in this movie. For me, the most emotion I get is near the end after we've come a long way. And
sure,
I can see a lot of the sort of structure when we get to the point where Ben Foster's character gets introduced, we're about halfway along the journey. We've come through some bad times. These characters have spent a lot of time together through traumatic events. So as we're on this journey to take Yellow Hawk from New Mexico to Montana to his final resting place, they're ambushed. And it's something where, Yellow Hawk is telling him, take me out of these chains. We can help.
Yeah.
And it's this whole idea of we need to join forces against a common enemy. They endure that. They survive that. And I can see that, we're setting up this sort of sympathy between both of them of they need each other to survive this. By the time we get to Ben Foster as the prisoner that they're asked to take along on their journey to drop off, because he's been court-martialed and because he's just a cruel butcher of the Indians. Right. So he's somebody who idolizes Blocker. And by the time we get to that, I see, the whole function of this character is a foil for Blocker, who we need somebody that now has to be worse than him, so that we can see how far Blocker's come. And that's really the only reason I see for that character is to counterpoint to say, oh, Blocker now has come a little ways and doesn't really loathe Yellow Hawk and can't stand to be in his presence, as he was, stating at the beginning. Now he can at least, right, I can talk with this man. We have some agreement. Let's bring in a character who's going to be basically in the same place Blocker was at the beginning to show us, the audience, that Blocker's moved from his position.
Yep.
So that's all that served for me. I will agree. I can see a lot of the works behind it. By the time we get to the end, I can start to feel some emotion for Blocker because I have a sense that he has changed in his position. I'm not emotionally invested in any of the characters, really. It's really challenging when, yes, as you say, bad thing after bad thing happens to them. There are some powerful moments when they come across the burned out house where the family was living, and they find Rosalie there, and clearly she's suffering she's in shock, having lost all of her family, and they get her back to camp, and she sees the group of Yellow Hawk and his family, and her reaction at that point is just sheer terror because she has lost her family,
of course, and maybe the only time she's ever seen Native Americans before that.
Yes,
these crazed people who slaughtered her family. So of course she reacts as forceful and as terrified as she does.
And that scene there, when she buries her family, for me that works really well. I'm getting a sense of who she is and the trauma that she's gone through.
Okay. But can I ask you a question about that? Because again,
sure.
I don't want to pick on it, but she wants to bury them herself, and then it shows her not being able to, and then everybody else. Like, why do that? What's the purpose of that? What's the purpose of going through that exercise in the story?
I guess for me, it's about her realization that she's not alone in her grief and that she's going to have to depend on the kindness of strangers because she is out there in the middle of nowhere and she's not going to be able to make it on her own. And she needs to depend on them to make it through.
It's a fair point. I think that's like evident. I think those things are, and
Sure,
it felt sort of like, I don't want to pick on it because again, I think the actors actually did a great job of conveying their emotion through these scenes, but it feels like melodrama when you could probably eliminate that after we've seen the kids slaughtered. And then we see, as we come on the burned out house, she has the emotional moment where she's still treating the daughters as if they're alive. Like, shh, don't wake the children and stuff. I mean, it's just so hammering home this thing of you're on your own and you need to reconcile this grief. I don't know. It was too much for me because I felt that from her immediately. I felt that terrible, everything that she had to deal with the moment her first daughter gets shot in the back, which again, I say is in like minute 6. So it's really difficult.
Well, I'm going to say that I think this film is really an intellectual journey and not an emotional journey. Because for me, what I take from this, and because by the time we get to the end, through all the little episodes of terror and horrific things that happen and losing, they make it to a town. They pick up the party that, with Ben Foster, they're going to deliver him. So they've got extra troops and they lose everybody along the way to a variety of different
There's a bunch of red
issues.
shirts in Star Trek talk.
Every
time they stop somewhere, they gather a couple red shirts to go with them on the journey forward. Who's that guy? Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
he's gonna die.
It doesn't matter. He'll be dead in a couple of scenes. Yes. So by the time we get to the end where they make it to Montana, they make it, to the final resting place, where we have now come through everything together. They've connected and bonded. And for me, this is where it gets a little bit emotional, which is Blocker's going to, we've got a final resting place here, and we're going to bring this man who is now passed away right as he got to his, his homeland, and to bury him there, and to have ranchers show up and say, "Hey, this is my land." And for me, that was where I started to get emotional, which is I've come all this way. I connected with somebody who was my enemy, my nemesis. I've seen the humanity in him, and he's seen it in me. And I won't say they became friends, but I think there was some respect there.
Sure,
and
definitely.
He's trying to do the right thing and honor him, and being told, you get out of here. This is my land. And for me, that became an emotional moment where I could sympathize with Blocker of he's lost everybody. As we learned, previously before even starting this, he lost a lot of friends. He lost a lot of people here. Let him do this one last thing. And these ranchers, show up, and he even, pulls out the presidential decree, and the rancher says, nobody, not even the president, can tell me what to do on my property.
Name's Cyrus Lown. These are my boys. This here's my land, and I want you the hell off it. I seen you trepsing through my fields with that sorry red, and I don't like it one bit.
Mr. Lown, this land here is his rightful burial place.
Where we come from, natives ain't got no rights.
President's orders.
There ain't no writing on no paper, president or not, can tell me what I can and can't do on my property. Hey, I ain't telling you one more time. Get your shit, you dead Cheyenne, and get the hell out of here. This is my land. Now, goddammit! You just ain't hearing me.
You just ain't hearing me.
We ain't telling you one more time. That savage stays here. You better make room for several more right next to him.
Well, he ain't moving.
Something tells me you ain't got the nerve to fire that woman.
intellectually, this was an exercise of two people that dislike each other immensely, spending time, I guess, getting to know the humanity in each other. And for me, that's really what this is the story about. Of it's easy to hate a group of people that you don't know, but if you can find time to come down and meet as people one-on-one with each other, to see Yellowhawk's family and see their family together, and interact with them and see that they can be a help to you in a time of need. Somebody that you despise can, be a benefit to you. And for me, that's really what this is we need to learn how to interact with each other as people first, and not just broad generalizations of I'm this group, you're that group. We should hate each other for all of these reasons. And here they even made it more personal by saying, Yellowhawk personally killed several of Blocker's friends. So, and he can get past that.
And in that regard, I would have preferred, from a storytelling aspect of it, for us to be able, as audience members, to take the turn with Blocker on it, because we only ever see Yellowhawk as a kind person, right? So we start off with the stories of what he's done, but we don't witness them. And so we don't act, and Christian Bale, while he simmers in his role here as an angry, and goes through a lot of really dark emotions through this, it's really tough to take the journey with him as a character, because he just is so broken up and angry throughout the entire film. So we don't actually go on that ride with him. It would have been nice for us to see, or to participate emotionally in the negativity that he experienced in some way, so that then we could be in the negative place with him and then come out of it with him too, which we never actually do, except for a great speech that's told in subtitle. And I'm not a fan of many of the speeches in this film, but that particular speech I thought was wonderful, when they actually are saying their goodbyes in Montana. We're here. I got you to your homeland. When Christian Bale, Blocker, says to him, "When you die, you take a piece of me with you." I thought that was really powerful, and that was great. Now, how much more powerful would it have been if, from a script perspective, we participated in that arc with both of them and saw them both go from savages, from hostiles, right? That's the idea here, that we see them go from hostiles to, again, not friends, but people who respect each other. That's the goal of this story. And it doesn't take you on that ride. You're just hostile the whole time. There's no way to understand the arc that they're going through, because you're just a witness to the tragedy. I guess that's where it left me, but I understand the arc. I couldn't buy into it because I wasn't participating, unfortunately.
No, I agree with you on that. You are not personally taken on this. There's a lot more telling than showing. And those first two scenes that we talked about, I think, are the attempt to show, however, in a depersonalized way, the nature of the relationships between these two groups. When you have, the family being attacked, we can understand why, from that perspective. Oh, the Native American, they're savages, and they come in and they slaughter families, and they're horrible. Okay, so we've got that, and then we can see from the other side of, here's a family of Apaches that have escaped, and now look at the way they're being just herded back and treated like animals and dragged. So yes, you can understand that they're being dehumanized by the white man, and so we can see the nature, the dynamics. But again, there's nothing personal. I agree. I'm being told why Blocker feels this way. I'm not shown that. I haven't taken that journey with him so that I have that. I'm not in the same emotional place, as you say. And then by the time I get to the end, I agree. I'm told he takes this turn. I've seen all the things that show me along the way why he should be doing this, but I don't feel that emotional turn with him. There's a lot of, it's a cold film. Yes, other than
right. Well, and I talked about space, and I was very negative about the editor. So I actually went and looked it up, because that coldness and that thing. Now, this editor, his name is Tom Cross, and I'm going to forgive him for a lot in this conversation. Number one, not so much because the last film that he did that we know of is he did First Man, which was a Film Board film. And I think
another cold film.
That feeling of coldness and space is very, very evident in First Man. And I didn't like it there either. But I will say two others that he's known for are La La Land and Whiplash.
Oh, wow.
Which are I mean, Whiplash is like one of my favorite films the last decade. So, so I was unnecessarily cruel to Tom Cross, but what they're going for here, I just don't get, and it didn't hit with me because that cold struck me, and I think we need to get more emotional with this. I think we need to feel the emotion for me to enjoy this movie. At least that's what I needed.
No, I agree. When you look, we've talked briefly about the cast, but there's a lot of familiar faces in here that are we lose very quickly. So we've got Rosamund Pike at the beginning as Rosalie Quaid, and then we've got Christian Bale and Rory Cochrane. We have Stephen Lang, as I said, this is as the Colonel. But then once we get the band together, right? He's got his crew. We've got Jesse Plemons, we've got Timothy Chalamet as Desjardins, and I thought, oh, he's Desjardins, and I thought, oh, what a great little opportunity. And he's barely in this before he's spoiler, he's killed off. But even the loss of this young, ambitious, Desjardins. I don't feel I don't feel that because it's again they're as you said they're red shirts, and then we pick up a few more along the way. We pick up Ben Foster and Paul Anderson as Tommy Thomas, who again it's another face that's gonna get shot. But there's a lot of faces that I saw, and
about Paul Anderson, I particularly was going, who's that guy?
When did he get there? Yes,
when did he start coming with us?
Yes, I want to be connected.
And he was also in The Revenant. This is his favorite kind of movie.
There's so many faces and people you want to connect with, but you don't. They're a brief journey. We get a little bit of background about them, but it's really about Blocker's transformation. And unfortunately, as you say, we aren't emotionally invested in it.
Or think about like Tombstone. And Tombstone, I mean, to even compare these movies, it's not fair because Tombstone is not raw like this movie's raw. But Wyatt Earp, Kurt Russell's Wyatt Earp, goes through this similar kind of transformation. He wants to give it up, right?
Yeah.
And he does it in a much more. That's even like kind of like comparing pop music to something that's much more raw and forceful. But those movies do it more for me. They give me a story. They give me something to hitch my just everything on. So
see, I still like this more than you, and I don't know if it's just I have a fondness for this genre, and I'm willing to forgive it a lot of this because again, for me, I enjoy an intellectual journey, and I guess I can predict that if it was more emotional, I would feel that it would be like a melodramatic. It's manipulating me and pulling my heartstrings in a way because it's leveraging all these things. Like, look at all the bad things white Americans did in the past. Feel guilty about these things and play it that way. And I credit it for not doing that. Again, I think it could have been better executed, but despite all these issues that I'm citing, I still really enjoyed this. And maybe it's just Christian Bale. Maybe it's because I like the, sort of prototypical broken, disgruntled, grizzled war veteran going on a journey and finding some perhaps redemption along the way. Because by the time we get to the end, there's 3 people left. It's him. It's what Little Bear is it? The grandson of Yellowhawk, and we've got miraculously Rosalie Quaid has managed to survive all of this. So Rosamund Pike brought so much to this. So I have to say, when it's that final showdown and those ranchers show up and she pulls out that rifle and he,
my favorite line.
And he tells her, like,
when he says,
"Yeah, you're not gonna," he says, "Yeah, I know you're not gonna shoot me.
I don't think you're gonna have the nerve. I don't think that woman's gonna have the nerve." And in my mind, I'm like, you don't know what she's been through, buddy.
Exactly. So for me, it's still not emotional. Her journey to the point of losing her family to then at the end basically adopting Little Bear. It's these 3 survivors that have gone through the worst and come out, changed by the end. And as I said, it's not a 5-star for me. This is probably a 3-star movie.
But Steve, that last shot of the film, you've got Blocker. He gets on the train, and the train is slowly going away from you. like literally count the seconds, first of all. And then second of all, as it goes away, the director has background crossing in front of the camera as the train is going away. Like, what's the purpose of the background crossing? I mean, you don't need real. This is an emotional moment of the movie. You don't need realism here. This isn't. This is your last shot, guy.
Wow, you really dislike this.
It's so clearly a written and directed by movie. I mean, anyway.
Okay.
But
well,
whatever.
have you seen?
He was in love with it. I don't want to keep picking on it.
You,
It's just stuff like that just drives me crazy.
So, have you seen any?
Give me a second to care about Christian Bale as he goes away.
Have you seen any of Scott Cooper's other films? Because I haven't.
No. What else has he done?
So I haven't seen any of.
Let's look
So his other. So he did the one that most people will probably recognize is the one he did with Jeff Bridges, Crazy Heart. Okay.
Oh, but people like that movie. I haven't seen it, but people really like that one.
Exactly. So that was that one. He also worked with Christian Bale in Out of the Furnace, 2013, and then most recently Johnny Depp, Black Mass, which I know had very mixed reviews on that one.
Yeah,
so
that's not one for me. Scott and I just don't like the same kind of movies. That's all. He's probably a great person.
Yeah, he just may not tell the kind of stories you want. His newest film, this one right here in your backyard. A small town Oregon teacher and her brother, the local sheriff, become entwined with a young student harboring a dangerous secret with frightening consequences.
Oh, the frightening consequences. Now, I don't want to see that one either.
Based on a short story
Gosh.
called The Quiet Boy by Nick Antosca. So that's a family horror thriller. Yes, that's probably not anything you're going to see.
See,
and I thought I was going to bring you a nice character piece and that but I forgot how brutal that it was. And I guess it was compared to Raw. I thought, this isn't that bad. There's only, everybody dying in this one.
Well, wait. Compare it to Raw. You see, I didn't see Raw, which I'm very thankful for, but how do you feel about it? I mean, are these in the same sort of intensity vein, or is there a difference there?
Raw is an entirely different type of intensity.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this one is, I mean, that's more intense body horror type of just, really, unsettling. But this one, there's a lot going on in this one, but for me, there's something that I guess maybe just as I was growing up, there were a lot, my dad liked some Westerns and I remember seeing like Dustin Hoffman and Little Big Man, like on network TV when I was like maybe 9 or 10 years old. And, then later on, Dances with Wolves, Unforgiven, Open Range. I'm not a John Wayne.
See, I'm more of a Young Guns Tombstone kind of guy when you talk about Westerns.
Okay.
Right? And I mean, I think those are good movies. Young Guns doesn't hold up in the way that Tombstone does, like for sure. But in general, I mean, I know my lane.
Your lane.
Let's just say it that way. I respect Unforgiven for sure. I think it's a great movie. But yeah, this one was too much. But hey, I actually think The Hateful Eight is a great movie.
Oh.
Did you see The Hateful Eight?
I saw that in the theater.
I mean, that's technically kind of a Tarantino Western, and that is gruesome and horrifying in a real. But I think it's a very wonderful movie. It's a really interesting art piece in that sort of gruesome horror. So that I mean, that's the thing about this. It was just too negative for me.
Okay,
I couldn't dig myself out. I couldn't.
No,
and you heard me laughing at the beginning. I probably shouldn't have been laughing at that stuff, but it was just the kind of stuff that, in a very Game of Thrones way, I couldn't bear to deal with the negativity of what was going on.
Oh, sure.
In this movie.
Yeah, no, it's a dark journey that these characters go on, and it's not the most uplifting ending. And again, I think maybe to your benefit, it was not as emotional. You didn't get as emotionally invested because I could imagine this one really messing you up quite a bit if you became too emotionally connected with any of these characters, and then go on this journey with them. That emotional distance we have perhaps makes it easier to get through this.
Totally fair. I dissociated myself out of this one.
Exactly.
I needed more Free Fire and less Revenant on this one.
Okay. So I end up, this is I was probably more optimistic in my ranking this one
Cool.
before you started just reminded me of all these issues, which I'm going to take the...
I wasn't trying to change your mind.
I know you weren't. I'm going to take the Andy Nelson route and say I have some quibbles with this movie, but I'm still going to enjoy it.
Very good.
So it ranks really high on my list.
Top half?
Oh, yes. Oh, it's
wow.
it's top half.
I'm sorry that I'm so negative then. I probably haven't given you equal time on your positives about it.
I admit there's flaws, and this is one of those. I'm going to like it despite those flaws, and I can't tell you why. It just is one of these.
Okay.
It connects with me in a soulful way where it's just I love, again, the intellectual thoughts of what this is trying to say, despite the lack of emotion. It ends up so very interesting spot right above the Congress. Right below Black Klansman, which puts it at number 32 on my list of 346.
Wow, that's high.
It puts it, right there, like in the top 10%. So,
what do you do for stars on it?
So for Flickchart tells me I should give this like 5 stars, but I
know that's why I'm like 32.
I do that, but when I think of stars, for me, Flickchart is my own personal list, so I can put this really high. When I think of stars, I'm thinking, what am I communicating to everybody else? And that's why I would say this is a 3-star movie, because I know it's not for everybody. And I know I'm not going to say it's this great film and people are going to be disappointed. Like, no, what are you talking about? I'm going to say, no, it's solid 3-star. I enjoyed it. I may watch it again down the road. It's not one that I'm going to frequently, come back to. It's not a classic that I have some strong, connection and resonance with. It's an intriguing intellectual sort of process for me viewing this movie.
Well, and technically the movie, there was a lot of beautiful Oscar-style Vista type shots in it. You're going to see a lot of beautiful stuff from the West. So if you are sentimental about Westerns, that aspect of this film is pretty great. There aren't a lot of arguments that we can make about camera. There are some questionable pushes and pulls. The zoom was kind of weird to me. But regardless, I mean, that's just me being camera picky.
Oh yeah.
For me, it was super low, and you can guess that by the way that I've been talking here. I have 188 movies on my total list, and it actually was only 185. It was way down that low for me. But again, I've confessed at this that this movie took me out of it initially in the 6th minute when they killed off the girls. It felt like a cheap script device to make me feel terrible, and I never recovered from that. So at 185, it's just below Jason Bourne, and just above The Monuments Men, which I think you actually like more than most of the people in this world.
I do.
In the next real universe, right? So, and similarly, in a star ranking way, it tells me that I should give it 0 stars. I'm not comfortable doing that. I give it 1.
Okay.
But again, I don't blame you for your 3. I understand, but for me, I can't tell anyone to see this movie. I don't think that there is any redeeming qualities of this movie. I think it is telling the story that you're saying, right? And with that initial quote where they talk about how the American spirit has always been terrible and it's never yet melted. It's a quote by D.H. Lawrence here. It starts off by telling you this is what we're going to do, and then it does it. But I just don't. I can't think of a reason why I'd want anyone to go through what I did there. So I'm giving it 1 star, and for me, it's 185 out of 188.
Well, we ended in disagreement on this one, and that's not common. But I think we agree to disagree, and I think we both agree it's a flawed film. And I find a little bit more to enjoy about it. But again,
maybe this will get more people to watch it because maybe people will want to like combat me on this. I think most people have a little bit more ability to handle the sort of intense drama than I do, but I think, I'd really like to hear people's opinion on it. If people do watch this, I'd like for them to drop us some comments in our Discord channel or on any of our places so that we can talk more about it. Because I think it's an interesting movie. I can't think of any reason to go see it.
Okay. Well, if I will agree, I would pick the new 3:10 to Yuma over this because I think that
yes, that's so good.
I think
such a good movie.
The same type of Western road trip thing, but yes, I think that. Definitely.
And you get more Ben Foster, which is always a good thing.
So if you like 3:10 to Yuma and you're interested in something else, I'm not saying it's on par with that. I'm saying it's a similar type of film. Yes. For me, I would say you may be interested in watching this on Netflix. Let me know what you think. I'm not going to promise that you're going to love it as much as 3:10 to Yuma, but if you like a Western, if you like Christian Bale, if you like a darker journey, check it out. Let us know what you think. There. Right? There's a recommendation with a lot of qualifiers.
Period.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. So next month, we're going to take a little break because we usually,
Happy holidays.
Exactly. There's so much going on. The other thing is there's so many movies coming out. There's so many great things to see. You don't need to spend time with us. You need to spend time with your family, going out and checking out all these great movies. They're going to be hitting theaters.
Get out to the big screen.
It's already started. I still haven't gotten out to see Bohemian Rhapsody. That's one that
so good.
That's what
I saw it this last weekend.
Yes. Okay.
It's totally worth it.
Yes.
It's a great movie.
Now, have you seen A Star Is Born?
I haven't. I wanted to see that one too. I wish we would have done that.
There's so many out there. This coming Saturday, Andy and I are going to do a very special discussion about Suspiria 2018 and 1977, all of that. So we've got that as a little bonus episode. But JJ and I, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in 2019 in January.
Wow.
With we'll have to look through the picks and see what we find is a nice uplifting way to start off the year.
Thank you, Steve.
We will find a way to do.
I need some of that.
Find something.
New year,
new
feelings.
We started off good. It just took a darker turn. That's what happens in the fall. Things just the trees die and things go to a dark place, and the
leaves change.
Yes, exactly. Well, for everyone listening out there, if you haven't already, please head over to iTunes and give us a rating and a review. It helps other film fans discover us. And if you choose to support us on Patreon, you're joining a great community of film fans, including some that are really into film as art, and they may appreciate the intellectual journey of Hostiles. And there are some that just really enjoy entertaining movies and will say, it's a 1-star piece of garbage. Don't waste your time on it. But either way, we would love to have you join our community. It's like finding a group of friends that you didn't know you had. I'm going to thank Pete Wright for taking time out of his busy schedule, and it's getting busier and busier because there's more and more projects that he's working on. He takes time out of his day to edit this into a coherent conversation and fix our mumbles, and also precisely placing the audio clips we give him. Thank you, Pete. You are a gentleman, a scholar, and a fine editor. Well, JJ, you have some happy holidays. Enjoy the films. We'll talk to you in 2019. Oh, wait, no, I will talk to you on a film board, I believe. We've got those coming up.
Thanksgiving weekend. Got something new coming.
Yes,
It'll be great.
All right. Hondo.